They were described as globs of luminous light. Free-floating globs of light have been reported in haunted places as well.
But for Ortega, most compelling evidence of a haunting is that mysterious goo Barry and Jeff found oozing from Jackie's walls.
I mean, it just sounds so bizarre, that you would have human blood plasma oozing from the walls. And when they checked, there wasn't any device that was emitting this substance.
Was the Marine so angry about being murdered that he bled through Jackie's walls? Incredibly, Ortega thinks Jackie wasn't the only victim.
When Jackie Hernandez left the premise, people who inhabited that home had also reported strange activities. They reported objects being moved around, pots and pans being moved around, and they reported being touched.
What an incredible story. Strange things happen around my house too, but once I say I'm sorry, everything's forgiven. But human blood? Dripping from walls and a spirit that is so angry it tries to kill you? I mean, who are they going to call? Ghostbusters? I've always wanted to say that. A terrified woman reports extreme paranormal events in her home. Weird lights, strange noises, even physical attacks. Did Jackie Hernandez live in a haunted house?
It does not appear that the house would fit the classic haunting.
Lloyd Auerbach is a paranormal investigator. He believes the answer isn't ghosts at all.
Knowing what I know about the Jackie Hernandez case, it seemed that she herself was a poltergeist agent.
Poltergeist? Isn't that just a hyperactive ghost? Or is there a difference?
What we learned in the last 100 years is that these things relate typically not to ghost sightings, not to hauntings per se, not to a place being haunted, but to a person, an individual in the situation who is typically stressed or otherwise put upon. There's possibly epileptic or having epileptic type activity. It's about a third, perhaps, of cases. And the expression, instead of by an entity, is by the entity in the body. It's by a person's unconscious blowing off steam or having a seizure, essentially. It's kind of like a seizure in some of these people as well. But it's not a ghost-related situation.
Many now believe poltergeists are not ghosts, but a manifestation of something called
Jackie Hernandez.
We call it PK for short. And it's the idea that the mind can directly interact or affect matter and energy. We typically think of it in the paranormal world as affecting things outside your body, whether it be moving objects, what people often call telekinesis, or bending metal, or even healing.
Was Jackie Hernandez herself causing the weird phenomenon in her own house? If so, why? And for that matter, how?
Certain people, their unconscious minds let loose. I mean, we see people who are stressed out, who are put upon in society, in really expressing that stress in different ways. Some people get enraged and they break things. Some people shoot people. Some people keep it bottled up, and it can explode in kind of a different direction for certain individuals, which is a psychokinetic direction. And we call those situations where they're stressed, think of it as an unconscious temper tantrum. It's happening outside themselves and just starts throwing things around, probably like they'd like to do if they actually physically could do it. But by having their unconscious throw things around, who's going to get blamed? The invisible force, the invisible ghost? Certainly not the person who's stressed out. When we talk about the stress involved in these PK events, which are often called poltergeist cases, we're not talking about typical stress of, just day-to-day stress, sitting in traffic, being frustrated because your computer couldn't work, which may actually be related back to the PK. Those kinds of stresses do show in small ways sometimes, but they can, again, come out in a lot of different ways. For example, road rage, or people just screaming at the driver across, the way without acting on it. You release that stress. People have other ways of doing it. In poltergeist cases, the stresses tend to be very psychologically oriented in most of these cases. So they can be related to deep-seated issues around the family or even around the working conditions. They are typically not expressed in other ways, so there's no outlet for most of these people.
Was Jackie's unconscious mind throwing a temper tantrum? And if so, why? It could be due to the fact she was experiencing emotional issues at the time following a difficult divorce.
There was enough going on in her life and, frankly, enough psychological issues that would indicate that she was responsible for most of the phenomena that was happening. In most poltergeist cases, people rarely ever think of themselves as the agent.
According to Auerbach, the most compelling argument that Jackie was both the victim and the problem is what happened when she moved 600 kilometers away. Incredibly, the vicious paranormal attacks on her continue.
In poltergeist cases, when people move, the phenomena follows them because it's coming from them. And that also happened in that particular case.
But if Jackie was her own poltergeist, how is it that the new tenants also reported paranormal attacks?
You gotta watch those
Could it be that Jackie herself was responsible for the weird goings on? Or were they the result of an altogether different kind of bad vibe?
No.
Professor John Huntington believes the Jackie Hernandez case can be explained by undetectable audio waves known as infrasound.
Sound is just a vibration in air pressure. That's how we perceive it. That's how it gets into your ear. Infrasound is below the range that we can hear as an audible sound, but we're still being affected by the sound wave is still impinging on our bodies. In fact, right now in the room, we have a pretty loud 19 hertz, 19 cycle per second infrasound wave going, but it's not really audible as a sound, and it's quite a bit louder than the speech, the level of the speech that I'm talking at right now. But it's still there, and it's still affecting